Hey everyone, One Dragon here, back with another Cyberpunk 2077 video. Are you planning a new playthrough or are new to the game? Well, today we're going to take a look at tips for the early game in patch 1.2. We will specifically be looking at 3 points. 1. What changes have been made in this patch and my speculation as to their intentions. The second one is income and money in the early game. And the third one is what things are still OP in the early game. Before I get to those, a couple of admin things I have to state first. First, the advice provided in this video is simply advice. Play however you like. I make plenty of mistakes, and often there are people in the comments that correct these. I test most of these things myself, and sometimes low sample size or just mistakes occur. So thanks to those people that correct me. On to the video. Before we discuss the various tips, it is important to discuss what changes have been made to the game and the possible reasons for doing so. The first thing I'll talk about is legendary armor with max mod slots. They are now available in clothing stores. These are available at quite the low level, and the price and armor stats scale with your level. This change allows for two main things. For you to be able to maintain a sense of fashion fairly easily if you like certain pieces, and when you get enough street cred, that will help as well. Before, you could get free legendary items with max mod slots by going around to specific locations in the world. However, you'd often have to decide and choose what level to get them, as upgrading them was really expensive in patch 1.1. The second thing is that it allows you to use clothing modifications more frequently, whether that be utility based like movement speed or carrying capacity, or offensive stats such as crit modifiers, or defensive stats like the Armadillo mod. One of the earliest places that you can get the Armadillo mod is in this Assault in Progress in Northside in Watson. Should be able to find it right here. This brings me to the second major change related to crafting, and that's the cost of components. Common components are now 5 eddies apiece. Uncommon components are 8 eddies. Rare are 15. Epic are 23. And legendary are 55. For those of you that have been complaining in the comments saying that they're more expensive than the previous patch, that's likely because you've been seeing the price in the store, and it's now the price for the whole stack that are in that store rather than each individual component. Alright, so overall, there has been huge decreases in the cost of crafting components. These prices, along with the reduced crafting costs and reduced upgrading costs, allow you to maintain your sense of fashion, craft weapons more regularly, and just allow you to do all those crafting and upgrading methods significantly cheaper than before. The next change we will discuss is the increase of street cred requirements for some items, as well as the removal of free legendary arms, specifically the mono wire and the mantis blade. When you take a look at item rarities in the game, we have white or the common, green uncommon, blue rare, purple epic, and orange the legendary. Okay, and I believe the intention was probably that as players we should progress through that sort of system and slowly upgrade the equipment through the different rarities. However, due to their own poor design choices and providing free legendaries for free or at low street cred, players often just skip straight to the legendary versions of pretty much everything in the game, which goes against building that sort of system in the first place. Right? If they were going to provide free legendary stuff or easy access legendary stuff, why even provide the green, blue, purple to level up? So in my opinion, that's why they are removed, so that we would use the system as they originally intended to, but obviously it's their fault for making things available too early in the first place. The next area that has changed significantly in the early game is the changes to clothing mods. They're significantly cheaper is the first point. The second important point is that crit modifiers on clothing can now stack when they previously could not, and this allows you to do insane amounts of damage in the early game. And the third one, from my testing in my new playthrough, I checked a couple of stores and the Deadeye mods become available from either level 11 or from having 20 street cred. So that's when I found them in the stores. Again, this could be an issue of low sample size, but basically what I did was every level after level 8, I checked a few different stores and I refreshed them until I was able to find the Deadeye mod. But we finally found the Deadeye mod, or this is the earliest that I've found it in stores. I checked at level 10 and I re-rolled, I think, like 5 or 6 times, and I checked from levels 8 to 10, and I checked 5 or 6 times in a couple different stores, but this is the first one that I've found. And yeah, I'm level 11 and 20 street cred. I think level is the requirement, but I'm not 100% sure on that. This clothing store in Watson also stock them. Drake Avenue, Fast Travel Station, or Metro Med Center. You can also see from this guy, at 20 street cred, you can buy like 4 pieces of legendary armor here too. You can just buy the boots, the face, outer torso, and the legs there. At first, what you can do is you can opt to use the Deadeye modifications and Fortuna mods until you get 100% crit chance from other sources, such as your weapons, then eventually sub these modifications out for just straight bully mods at 30% crit damage.
We begin tonight with a look at the stock market, as usual.
Now we move on to tips for earning money in the early game, specifically before you get to that crafting stage where you can craft a Shura and then just resell it. So one perk that I avoid, like in every playthrough, is the Scrapper perk, mainly because if we go to our backpack, we'll occasionally get these 750 Eddy junk items, and we don't want them to be automatically salvaged for one common component, as you can see when I hover over that. It's just a complete waste of money there, so normally I'd rather just salvage everything myself if I need to. The next perk, which is great for earning money if you're going into intelligence, is the advanced data mine perk. So when you get 2 perk levels invested into it, it doubles your money or increases it by 100% for the access points, and that is a huge amount of money in the early game. If you want to, you can get the extended network interface, which highlights nearby access points if you don't know the locations either. So that can be quite useful. Okay, so once you hit level 13, as I'm showing here, you can get 18 technical ability, providing that you started with 6 technical ability in the beginning in character creation. And then from there you can get Edge Runner Artisan, which allows you to craft legendary items. You can get cost optimization, reducing the cost of crafting items by 30%, and Ex Nihilo grants a 20% chance to craft an item for free. And we are at 0 crafting skill progression. You'll notice that at levels 3 and levels 4, it'll automatically reduce the crafting cost by 5%. And we've picked up the Ashura. So if we add these up, okay, the total will be 848 eddies. That will be the cost. And if we subtract that away from the price, the profit is 446 eddies, and this is without any of the skill progression. Now once we start crafting these, which we can start doing if we want to, our crafting experience will level up and the costs will eventually go down, and all we need to do is sell them and rebuy the materials for them. Some people have suggested that you complete this mission, Shark in the Water, so you can buy very cheap epic components from the medicine vendor there, or you can go to this place in Arroyo because it's got a med point and a weapon shop like close to each other, so you don't need to time skip it as much, and you can just buy more epic components there. But yeah, that's pretty much the cycle that you want to do. and you can pretty much have infinite money and like continue to level up your crafting. So in theory, once you hit level 13, you shouldn't have any money problems whatsoever after that. If you haven't seen that video where I explain how to get infinite money and free crafting experience, I recommend that you go check that out. If you are planning to dive into crafting, items like grenades have changed, component values have changed, and you can no longer salvage some of the consumables like drinks. However, their sale price has changed as well. Okay, so the final thing is what is still OP in the current patch, especially in the early game, before we get to like being able to craft legendaries. The first thing that is really strong, although tedious, is re-rolling items for legendary clothing modifications. They trialed removing RNG related to clothing rarity and mod slots, but they ended up reverting that change fairly recently. Although it is tedious and having to like reload or re-kill a boss, you can get very early crit modifiers on clothing if you are willing to re-roll the items and the mods that are on them. To do this, you could either leave the area in the pass or just reload a save. The next thing that remains OP is the ability to get legendary quick hacks as early as 9 intelligence. Remember how I mentioned before that it's really OP that you can skip that rarity chain? Well, quick hacks is still one that you can essentially skip. Okay, one of the first things we're going to test to see if this still works is can you get legendary quick hacks at level 9 intelligence? Let's check it out.
What you looking for? Hardcore BD? He knew or something?
We didn't get any that time, so I'm going to reload and try again. Confirmed. So yes, you can still get free legendary quick hacks at 9 intelligence. Let's show that again. 9. Don't have any special perks or anything. It only took me 4 tries, but sometimes it can take an extremely long amount of time. Since you can skip the whole common, uncommon, rare, epic crafting system by save scumming access points, it's really strong. Once again, this is quite grindy, especially if you do it without certain traits that improve your chances of getting those quick hacks, but it can save you precious attribute points in your overall build. Final thing that's really broken in OP is the whole time slowed down while scanning with your Kuroshi optics. It's still just insanely broken. The fact that you can move around, albeit slowly, and perform actions such as reloading whilst the enemy cannot really move or fires in slow motions is just really broken. So if you want to use that, I will show how to do that as well. One thing that remains overpowered in Cyberpunk is the ability to use the Kuroshi optics to basically slow time for everybody else but yourself. Now you'll obviously move slower, so you can see that I'm still moving, but the NPCs are moving much slower than I am. So you can kind of use this in combat for several ways. You can use this to dodge bullets, like Neo from the Matrix. You can use this to reposition and get around the flank or get behind cover. And you can use it to reload. You can't use it to like fire or shoot, but you can use it for many different things. So I'll showcase some of that here. So kill a couple, and then I want to start the reload, and then I can use this time to reload while they're still, I don't know, doing stuff, and eventually they'll be firing shots at me. You can see that there's one there, and that's going to miss. Still firing shots because I'm moving much faster than they are moving, and those shots would typically hit. The other thing I mentioned is that you can use it to reposition, so if there was cover in front of me, then I could do that. Now, time will return back to normal if I were to turn this off and then turn it back on. So you can use this to make them waste like their entire clip as well, I think. Or make them hit each other. There's a whole bunch of different uses that you can use this for, and honestly I think this is kind of broken and overpowered, but yeah, so I don't really use this mechanic much, but it's just really OP. You'll also notice that their models will do some strange things if you play around doing this as well. Just look at the arm as an example. Oh no, that one didn't mess up, but occasionally I get some like really weird model animations. She's going to melee me, but I'm not even there. Am I gonna shoot more? Yep, there's the shot. So yeah, as you can see, this is really OP. Those are some of the tips that I have for the early game in Cyberpunk 2077. If you have any more, feel free to add your own. I'll be making some more Cyberpunk videos in the future, so consider subscribing if you enjoyed that. Let me know if any of the tips personally helped you as well. But thanks for watching. I'll see you later, Chooms.